We're going to take you on a magical trip of magicalness with magical spies and magical atomic bombs in the magical 1940s. This is Agent Carter.
It's so much magic. This is the Fandom Workshop Podcast. I'm Evan Atwood.
And I'm Daniel Sullivan.
And we're recording live because how else would you do it?
Oh, God. So we had a wonderful experience where we watched the premiere, the two-part premiere of Marvel's Agent Carter.
Yep. Marvel's Agent Carter episode 1 and 2 were released recently, and oh, my stars and stripes. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. First of all, if you're a fan of some good old 1940s dark corner spy fiction stuff.
Yeah, action, secret spy, espionage.
You're going to love this. If you're a fan of strong female characters, you're going to love this. If you're a fan of a good, strong supporting cast, you're going to love this.
If you like things that are good, you should like this.
If you only like KFC boneless strips and mini Rubik's Cube keychains, there may be nothing in this for you.
I would beg to differ. I love both of those things, and I loved it.
I said if you only like...
Dan, you should know by now that I only like those things.
I don't know how
certainly not Captain America. Not my favorite. No, I love Captain America.
Not a costume.
I can't even say that. Can't even say that lie.
So as kind of a 7 or 8 part, I'm not exactly sure if it's 7 or 8 part here, but as a mini series, trailing up right after the end of Captain America: The First Avenger and a long precursor to Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we have Marvel's Agent Carter, which is
following the exploits of Peggy Carter from the Captain America: First Avenger movie.
Right after, and it picks up literally right after Captain Rogers is plunged into the ice and becomes cold.
Capsicle. He becomes a
capsicle.
Becomes a cold Captain America man.
It's his cold period.
He becomes a cold man. He's a snowman.
Not unlike Picasso's blue period.
So the series opens, spoiler alert, with a flashback sequence taken directly from Captain America: First Avenger. And really quick, I gotta say, I absolutely loved that opening. They open with the touching sequence of the last conversation that, Peggy Carter has with Steve Rogers, and then he plunges into the ice.
Good thing about Captain America: The First Avenger is that not only do you know that Avengers is a movie and Captain America: The Winter Soldier is a movie, you can watch Captain America, and there are so many things that we could say about Captain America. None of them would be really spoilers. There's actually nothing really that you can spoil in First Avenger that is like damaging. I could spoil the whole movie, but it wouldn't affect your funness watching it.
I know, just saying it's like, yeah, Captain America gets frozen in ice. Well, yeah, of course. How did he wind up in Avengers?
It wasn't a DeLorean.
Yeah. So, yeah, he didn't crash the ship into a DeLorean time machine. Now, just following up the opening sequence of Agent Carter, they do a brief montage that kind of recaps a little bit of the character relationships between Peggy Carter and Howard Stark, and just kind of the events of Captain America and, the World War II espionage aspects. I have to say, so far, as cinematic and beautiful as, episodes 1 and 2 were as an opening pilot series, I found the montage they did towards the beginning a bit jarring. Now, this is only just, stretching to find anything to criticize about Agent Carter. But I feel like I had the reaction people had to the montage sequence in Captain America: First Avenger, about 3/4 of the way through the movie, where they kind of jump between different exploits of Captain America leading the Howling Commandos on, a number of different missions. And I didn't have as much of an issue with that some people did. A lot of people, picked that aspect of the movie apart, just saying it was really jarring in the context of a linear film to jump around that much. And I didn't really mind it so much because I couldn't really think of a better way for them to have done that, because the course of the movie takes place over the course of World War II. But
can't get all of World War II in a movie.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky to do. Without doing like a 3-part movie series, which granted I would have loved. But in the opening sequence of Agent Carter, they kind of jump around those briefly, and it's really only in the first 5 minutes of the show. And like I said, I just found it a little bit jarring. Not that they were using those clips, but that they were kind of flashing back and then flashing forward to her ironing and then flashing back to something else that didn't really fit contextually.
Yeah.
Like if they held them all together like one after the other in a very, very brief montage, I would have been I probably would have been fine with it.
See, I understand what you're saying. I totally get it. I don't personally. I think this montage worked a lot better than the one in Captain America. I like these kind of things. It's a nice editing trick of playing the present to context of the past. I think it works well. I get what you're saying though, and I found that I actually did have one version of that did bother me a lot. It didn't come from either of those entities. So if I were to compare them, if I were to rank them, the one in Agent Carter didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
The one in Captain America didn't bother me as much as it kind of just made me chuckle for a minute.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely something you noticed being different. And
that was kind of like, it seems like you guys wrote a 3-hour script and then all of a sudden realized, oh yeah, World War II took a while.
Yeah.
The one that actually bothered me from a filmmaking standpoint was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in the first Spider-Man movie, where all of a sudden he is now somehow endowed with a costume, and he's swinging all over the place stopping bad guys, and then there was kind of the spinning newspapers and everything, and I thought that was lazy storytelling, and didn't fit with the film, although, mind you, I've got plenty of issues with the first Spider-Man trilogy as it is, but that's an example of that kind of montage that I felt was actually detrimental.
Yeah, and it's tricky to pull off that kind of exposition information well. It's a difficult trick to pull off.
I always lean more towards the idea of giving your audience more credit. I feel like more exposition always runs the risk of making your audience feel like you're treating them like they're stupid.
Yeah.
And so if you cram that, and if you're trying to do more exposition and cramming it into a montage, you're actually not accomplishing either of these tasks.
Yeah.
Unless it's something visually appealing, but then in that case, it's just not leaving you much latitude as to how your audience is going to interpret it.
Well, now that we've picked apart the first 5 minutes of Agent Carter and talked about...
there was like 90 more minutes.
I know. Now that we've picked apart the first 5 minutes and, had a conversation about montage editing, let's talk about how great Haley Atwell is.
Secret Dream Wife.
I adore her, and she is fantastic in this series. I mean, she was amazing in Captain America, and, brought an amazing life to the character of
But now
Peggy
she has
Carter.
her own platform.
And when they announced Agent Carter, I was probably more excited than I was for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I agree.
When that came out.
Now, I really do like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I totally agree with you. When they announced this, when they announced Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was stoked. It was through the roof, and I was like, hey, Joss Whedon's doing S.H.I.E.L.D., this is awesome.
Great idea.
But then when this got announced, this was like someone kind of tapped a little bit more into my head. It's like, you'd like this, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as I found out about the announcement, I was stoked that we were going to get more Peggy Carter because she had such a strong and amazing and like deep, three-dimensional, real character from just from the Captain America movie, and
I mean that's giving props to Haley Atwell, who just does a great job.
She did an amazing job, and now seeing her, heading up her own series, it's well deserved.
And if you have like no idea what we're talking about, I think one of the things to point out is that where the show picks up is minutes after Captain America. We end with the whole Steve Rogers getting frozen in ice.
Yep.
And then we cut to some time later, a very short amount of time later. Was it a year?
Thereabouts.
Okay. So anyway, Peggy is still working for the government.
The SSR.
And she
Strategic
is...
Scientific Reserve. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at...
Nerd!
Yes!
And so they put her in this they have her in this position, and there's this general feeling where she is just being so incredibly underused. She's such an amazing, talented woman. She's being underused in what is essentially a very kind of 40s kind of man's world sort of situation where there's a lot of
misogynistic patriarch,
a lot of sexism being thrown around.
Yeah,
and very quickly is she put on this path where where someone actually almost admits to her that they feel like she's only there to have her feel busy. It's almost like this consolation prize for being so close to Captain America, and that so they still keep her around and have a job. And of course, she's so much more talented than that.
Yeah.
Right when this all happens, Howard Stark is being accused of selling secrets to the other side, and he disappears. And so they put a team of men on this.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that Stark basically intercepts her and
explains his situation,
and then decides to leave to Europe to go rescue some of his technology that's been stolen, putting her on the trail of recovering all the stolen technology here in the States. He leaves her his butler, Jarvis, played by James Darcy.
Oh my God. He is phenomenal.
Absolutely amazing. James Darcy does such a great job. And, the first time I ever saw him was in Master and Commander, and he was such a powerful, commanding presence. And seeing him in this, he does so well at playing a very proper boarding school-esque British type without feeling overly forced. It's definitely comical to a degree, but throughout the whole pilot episode, they do such a good job of showing this guy who has seen so much of Howard Stark's kind of debauchery, but when the real kind of espionage and spy thrillingness comes in, you can tell he has the itch.
Oh yeah, I mean, he starts out throughout he is still a quintessential butler type, but you can see as soon as he starts getting involved with the espionage antics that he enjoys it.
He is so on board.
You can see that glint of excitement in his eye. So he winds up, initially being apprehensive about assisting Peggy Carter in various exploits. But
so much so that he actually will refuse to work past 9 o'clock.
Yes, because he has responsibilities at home.
Yes, to his wife.
Which go unnamed. But I think we know what they are.
Yeah, he's souffle. And I think it's definitely clear, too, that there's a wonderful dynamic that is just so watchable between them.
Yeah, and we only have 2 episodes in so far, but I believe that is a chemistry that's going to extend throughout the entirety of the miniseries. There's other characters as well that Peggy Carter has amazing interactions with. She befriends one of the waitresses at a local Automat diner.
Automat, that is
it's such a 1940s thing.
When we thought that was the future.
And then one of her fellow agents at the SSR, I think it's characters Daniel Sosa, played by, I think it's Envy Jokai. Yeah, Envy Jokai. Enver Jokai.
All Daniels are good Daniels. No, he's a great. One of the things that's so great is that he's an amputee, and
kind of that recovering from the aspects of the war as like one of the guys who did make it. And when Peggy sees him, she sees Steve Rogers didn't make it, so she calls him one of the lucky ones.
One of the dynamics that's so good is that I don't know who is writing his lines, but my God, someone is just giving him the best quips possible.
Yes. I mean, we haven't seen too much of him yet.
No, but every time we do, it's hilarious.
Yeah, and so far, just from the first 2 episodes, they've really set him up as a character that is going to mean something going forward.
Yeah. Now, one of the cool things, too, is that there's a fun little Easter eggs that they've basted throughout this premiere. One of them was seeing Roxxon.
Yep, they showed the Roxxon Corporation as the oil and fuel conglomerate.
Yep.
And I think Marvel had shown them in the background of Iron Man. They showed the Roxxon Corporation building in the back, I think during the Ironmonger scene.
They did. And then also to...
I was like, I think it's like, no, Evan, you're right.
I just didn't want you to trail into the pontificating. I believe it was Henry VIII who founded Roxxon Mobile.
Yes.
Because he did.
I do pontificate.
But no, one of the things that was really good is that they showed Vanko's father from Iron Man 2, who was working at Stark Industries at the time.
Oh yeah.
And that was cool. That was a nice little kind of like send up there that you
Yeah,
saw.
eventually leading into the Iron Man 2.
Yep. And then let's see. What else? Oh, and also the guy who plays Daniel was also in Avengers, but he was billed as young cop.
So we can assume that ancestor, some kind, son,
grandson.
Could be grandson.
How long does it take before ancestor comes into play?
Yeah.
I feel like if you say my ancestors, I feel like
it's got to be like 4 or 5
pre-projectile weapons.
Exactly. There you go.
That's exactly how I define ancestors right now.
People that fought with clubs. Those would be the ancestors. I just hit something metal.
I just immediately went to nightclubs in my head. People who had dueling nightclubs.
As is the way of the 1940s.
So yeah, that was a very cool little Easter egg.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to touch on, speaking of like Easter eggs and shorts and other Marvel properties, the events of Marvel's Agent Carter do seem to parallel or in some way fit with the one-shot that they did for Agent Carter back in 2013.
Which is a nice way of saying it. I mean, I feel like that was 2 different universes we were just bared witness to.
Well, yeah. I mean, after the events of the first Captain America movie, Marvel did a one-shot, basically just in 15 minutes, showing Agent Carter, being dismissed as a woman working for the Strategic Scientific Reserve, and then, doing a really great job, going on a mission, kicking some serious butt, and then being called up by Howard Stark to head up
he specifically said SHIELD.
Yeah, he said SHIELD. SHIELD coming out of the organization of the Strategic
It's a fun short film. Go online and just type in Agent Carter one shot. It's 15 minutes. You'll have a good time watching it.
It's really good.
But
is real good.
Is real good games to watch.
Yep.
If you watch it, there is nothing that directly breaks a continuity.
No.
But it also kind of it doesn't fit
with what's happening right now. And I feel like
there's a way out of it. There is a way out of it, but at the same time, it also seems like just as plausible as if they were sort of like, you like this? Would you like it if we made it bigger?
Yeah, and I feel like that's all it is. I mean, we saw
there was also, I doubt, any plans for Agent Carter at the time.
Oh, no.
Or actually, 2013,
just
there would have had to have been.
Yeah, just for production. But what we saw with that one shot was that it was great, and I feel like after those events, they probably realized, oh wow, this would work as a great series or mini series in this case. Much like what they did with some of the shorts featuring Agent Coulson, leading up into what would eventually be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep. No, and that's
because they did the one shot taking place of Agent Coulson on his way to New Mexico to investigate.
Yep, which
Mjolnir.
I really love that too.
Yeah,
I think what's interesting is I'm looking at all the reviews right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't get over the fact if you get on IMDb, you always see down at the bottom of the page you see like trivia.
Yeah,
and it always says like really cool trivia actually.
Dan, pray tell, what is the cool trivia?
The only one they have on this is like,
one?
Did you know that Agent Carter takes place after Captain America: The First Avenger?
Really? This miniseries with an initial flashback to
for the
Captain America
for the chronologically impaired.
Yes.
This is not for Time Lords. This trivia is for Time Squires.
Yeah, you have to know
Time Poppers.
Yeah, for those that don't know how time works. How to time. It's a series of wibbly wobblies. Timey-wimey.
But one of the things that's really great too, and I'm just so happy about this.
Yes.
I'm going to draw a little bit around and then come back to it.
Make your points.
Big fan of strong female characters.
Yes.
As I've always made a big point to, is that love Tomb Raider. Always been a big fan of Tomb Raider. And one of the things that I've always liked is that Tomb Raider originally kind of started as a very sort of two-dimensional storytelling ground with a very intriguing game dynamic. But then as time went on, they really allowed Lara Croft to become more of a real positive character with a lot of good output and everything, and much more of a three-dimensional female as opposed to kind of the really two-dimensional version that existed in the first game.
Yeah. In many ways, in many aspects, we are still coming out of that misogynistic man's
Very
world
much.
thing that we see in Agent Carter.
Now, with that, the two Tomb Raider movies starring Angelina Jolie, I felt like were two massive steps backwards.
Yeah.
Really did not like those. Especially too because
they took all the superficial aspects of the character
and
without
put them right back in.
Yeah, there's like, oh, let's just cut out all the things that were good and just like show the things that were kind of
let's turn her back
best.
into kind of an oversexed character, which was really kind of aggravating. Now with this, I feel like what we see here with Haley Atwell playing Peggy Carter is a really good infusing of that three-dimensional character development, and especially too in this time where it's not in such a position where it's trying to go over the top or anything. They make her very three-dimensional, very enjoyable, and also very believable in her skills and abilities, and also surrounded by a good supporting cast. And they actually made that point in the show where it's like good support.
Yeah.
And that was something I really enjoyed about it. Because one of the things that I found interesting is that I was looking on the reviews of IMDb and everything, and I was like, they are all amazing reviews.
Yeah.
One of the bottom ones is
rightly deserved.
One of the bottom, the one review on the bottom is basically, saying, the show's feminist and everything like that. And then also I found one person when I was trolling the Agent Carter Facebook page that was immediately saying, it's like, oh yeah, it's another anti-man show and everything. If you're actually thinking this, you are so behind the times and missing it, As much as I like to say everyone's entitled to their own opinion, you're not. You're just a dumb person if that's thinking.
No, and it's perfectly balanced, and I think you touched on it briefly. There's an amazing interaction between Peggy Carter and Jarvis, where she's pushing people away. She doesn't want to be considered weak. She doesn't want anyone to get hurt.
But also, she's not pushing people away in the overt, rude way that Angelina Jolie was in the Tomb Raider movies. It was actually a very believable way that she was doing it.
It was a very protective way because she had seen people that got close to her be hurt, and Jarvis comes back with that and says, hey, what you're doing requires support. We're not helping you because you're a woman or because we're worried we're going to get hurt. We're helping because we care about you and we want to do
and
good.
We're providing support because you're going above and beyond.
Yeah, and they draw that parallel that in so many ways she was the support for Captain America. And now she's kind of taking up that kind of, American hero mantle.
Even though she's a Brit.
She's super British. But she's taking up that mantle of being the hero that is needed at this time. And she now needs the support that she had provided to those being the hero in the past.
Exactly. It is going to be 8 episodes. I just found that.
Awesome.
Couldn't figure out if it was 7 or 8, but that's...
We really could have looked that up before we started recording.
Whatever.
But we just like to talk.
But I feel like that's one of the things that has just been aggravating me is when people kind of come back with these huge regressive and almost seditious sort of comments where they're just like, oh yeah, it's another man-hating show and stuff like that. That is just kind of ridiculous. I feel like those kind of complaints are things that are just so locked in sort of a previous time period, and to actually, attack a character because of gender, it's like, what, are you kidding me? And say that it's somehow because it's, got a strong female lead, that it's somehow anti-male. It's that kind of stuff that it's like that kind of ignorance just begets more ignorance. And that's where I feel like a show like this is such a positive influence, where you do have that amazingly strong female character who has a strong support staff, and you don't feel like one has to coexist, or one is only there by virtue of the other or anything like that. These are all characters that are coexisting very well. It's
I would say it's an organic sort of relationship.
It is
that are developed, and it feels so real as a result of that.
Yeah, and as I'm not going to read your outright stupid handle on Facebook.
No,
are you pulling it up? I'm talking
words?
To you, guy who was saying that this show is anti-male on the Facebook page. Seriously, the only thing that I could ever say to you is that no one will ever love you.
Well, we certainly won't.
No, and no one else. But as a big fan of a strong female character base, I think this is a really good job of it, and also does a great job of providing just good, strong characters in genuine, where I feel like there's a third dimension to almost everyone.
Yeah, gender equality aside, which it should never be because gender equality is extremely important, but that aside, Peggy Carter is an amazing character. She is well-rounded, she is three-dimensional, she is strong and powerful, and does an amazing job. And again, I can't say enough amazing things about Haley Atwell.
I think, I really think that that these 8 episodes we're going to get are going to be something super fun. And then on top of that, we got a strong cast and a good support.
And right now, I mean, this is, Agent Carter is the mid-season break for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so we're getting a little bit more backstory to that. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more interplay between those two, even after, the 8-episode miniseries is over. We might see a little bit more in terms of interplay between those two time periods. We actually started seeing a little bit before the mid-season break for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with some more flashback stuff.
I think one thing, we got to go here, but one of the things that I did want to mention that's so great is that the show is always paralleled with them listening to the Captain America radio hour, where she's turned into Betty Carver instead of Peggy Carter, and she's very helpless and everything.
And rather than making her an agent, she's a nurse.
And that also is very reflective of how the character originally existed. And I thought that was a very kind of nice way of sort of pushing that aside, of where it's like, yes, we realize it's there, and now let's kind of move on from that.
Yeah, and it's a great contextual device that they use to show how she feels about what's going on, because it gives a very, very stark contrast to what's actually happening. We see that really in the 2nd episode. I'm not sure if they're going to continue that or if that was kind of just for that episode, but I think it's a good device, and I would not mind seeing it used more, but
to its natural conclusion.
And I think it's an amazing way to kind of have that moment of nostalgia for the war and what she had in terms of her relationship with Steve Rogers. And
it's not just that, and also it's just the fact that there's the removal of the urgency of the situation. The war is over. But luckily Peggy has discovered that there is so much happening in the world that is so incredibly dangerous, with so many little flashing Christmas ornament nuclear bombs.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's about it for us.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked enough about the first 2 episodes. We're looking forward to more. We hope you are as well. As always, be sure to like us and follow us on
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter.
All the good things.
Wherever you see an ability to give us an upvote or a thumbs up, please do. And
please do, because we like it, and that makes us like you better. You don't need to. We still love you.
More importantly, too, leave your comments in the comment section anytime you have something that you think we didn't touch on or something you would like to talk about, because we are always happy to hear from you. And also send us a line at fandomworkshop@gmail.com.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions for future podcasts or wonderful things you'd like to hear in our soothing baritone voices. I'm just kidding, I'm a tenor.
I don't know how to music.
I know very little. And now I shall regale you with a beautiful song.